all I had to do was walk up to, let's say, a plant, and I knew that plants, all of the medicinal powers of that plant. The root is for this, and it was almost like the plant was talking to me.
Right.
So because I was a little kid, I would see the plant with a little face and going, so my roots are blah, 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 and my leaves are for blah, 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 and my stem is for blah, blah, blah. And if you make a tea, it's blah, blah, blah. If you chew blah, blah, and it's like this. Trees, animals. Welcome
To another episode
of Driving to the Res.
The podcast for wisdom seekers and wisdom
keepers.
neighbors. What have you got for this week, this honey?
This honey has something.
Yeah, this week, this honey.
So this week we're going to talk about wisdom lineages. I'm going to be writing quite a few of these articles. What are they? What are the lineages? With the wisdom lineages. This year of 2025, I promised to speak more about lineages. The lineages that I can speak about are my own 3 lineages, which are Alchemist, Magic, and Shamanic. But I will also talk about other lineages we can tap into.
That sounds good.
Of course, I have spoken about this extensively with the wisdom keepers and seekers at walkwithmenow.com on many monthly and weekly meetups. In this article, I will do a summary of what lineages mean. I will follow up with articles on the 3 lineages I carry personally during 2025. If you want to join the conversation, but are financially strapped and can't join Walk With Me Now, for $8 a month, you can join the podcast after party every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific by subscribing to the Wisdom Keeper Hour at drivingtotheres.com. So with that in mind, and I like to talk about it quite a lot, that you can join, because wisdom seeking and wisdom keeping is super important, and it's not a passive thing. So yeah. All right. So did you have anything more to add to that, honey?
No.
No? Shall we go to the first part of the article?
Sure.
All right. A lineage to me is a bundle of wisdom and practical applications of that wisdom that a person inherits or creates to be inherited into the future. These lineages can be passed genetically, and I call these ancestral lineages. Others can be passed from master to student. These I call school lineages. And some can be passed in one sitting, telepathically or energetically, through the agreement of both the lineage and the recipient. Let's call these Field of Wisdom Lineages.
I like those names.
And I just wanted to point out here something that's not in the article, that I say that the last ones, they can be passed with the agreement of the lineage and the recipient, but not the holder. The lineage chooses.
Oh, the lineage is the boss of the exchange, not the holder of the lineage.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one of those. Shall I tell you a story?
Yes, please.
When I was 7 years old, I got very, very sick. I had pneumonia-like symptoms, and I was living with my grandmother at the time, and she lived in the countryside in Chile, in the middle of nowhere. There was no cars, no ambulance, no phone, nothing. And it got really late at night, and I was on my last breaths. So she agreed with my granduncle to go and get the local machi, which is the machi is the Mapuche wisdom keeper. And the Mapuche are a whole bunch of tribes that are in the southern part of South America, across Chile and Argentina. Anyway, so my granduncle got on a horse and drove into the mountains, into where the Mapuches lived, and told the machi what was going on. So she got on the horse with him, and they came back. By the time they got back, I was dead.
Usually that's a problem.
That's a problem, usually. But she used one of her skills to come and fetch the soul back into the body.
Because you hadn't, totally took off?
No. Well, I had, but in my experience, this is what I was told, right? But my experience was that I was in a void. I wasn't in my body, I was in a void, right? So like my soul was in a void. And I could see my hands and my legs, and I was cross-legged and like sitting on this void. It was all black all around me, and I was waiting. I wasn't worried or upset. I had no feelings. The only thing I knew was that I've got to wait here, that feeling, right? So I'm going to wait here. And then as I was waiting, I heard a voice. And the voice was saying, come to me. And it was very distant at first. And it's like, come to me, you know? And then a bit louder, come to me, come to me. And then eventually I was like trying to look where the voice was coming from, you know?
Right.
And I could see a direction. I could sense that the voice was coming from a certain direction. So I started looking in that way. I was looking that way. And I saw this lady coming towards me. And she was, I don't know, now that I'm an adult, I would say she looked like she was in her 30s. She had very black, dark, curly hair. And she was very dark herself. And she was walking towards me. And she looked a little bit of, like upset, you know? Just like with crunchy eyes. And it's like, you know, come to me. Like, you know, like she was angry. So I looked at her and I thought, okay. And I did. And it felt like I was flying through this void, right? And then I saw myself flying out of my body and into hers.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And when I was in her body, I saw like, I don't know, I couldn't count them, but there was, let's say, 1,000 ladies and gents there.
In her body?
In her body, yeah. Not exactly in her body, but like tethered to her body, you know,
With
attached.
energy lines or cords or...
Yeah. And they all looked at me smiling, right? And they were like waiting for me. And then suddenly they started flowing or flying into me. And I was like, you know, and as they would fly into me, they could kind of touch me, and then all of their knowledge and wisdom and lives and histories went into me, and then the next one would come, right? And they were doing it so fast, really, really fast, right? But all of a sudden, I was pulled out of there, and I was back in my body, and I got up because I was laying down, right? I had been dead. So I jumped up and I tried to grab the Machi to say, don't stop, come back, right? But the Machi was moving away from me, and then her eyes was locked into mine and she couldn't look away, but she forced herself and looked away, turned around, told my grandma, gave her this, and then she gave her like a recipe for medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept shouting, come back, and she wouldn't come back. And she looked at my grandma and she said, that white devil stole my Machi, and she left, right? And then the next day, my grand-uncle went back to see if she could get her back so that, you know, she could do a follow-up healing. It wasn't like unusual. And she refused. And she said, I never want to see that white devil again. So yeah, she didn't agree on it, but she also stopped it. So I didn't get the full lineage, which is very, very sad. For obviously, I made a full recovery, and for many weeks, I could say probably months after, where I lived, all I had to do was walk up to, let's say, a plant, and I knew that plant's all of the medicinal powers of that plant.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you like the root is for this, and it was almost like the plant was talking to me.
Right.
So because I was a little kid, I would see the plant with a little face and going, you know, so my roots are blah, 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 and my leaves are for blah, 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 and my stem is for blah, 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 you know. And if you make a tea, it's blah, blah, blah. If you chew blah, blah, and it's like this, trees, animals, dirt, anything, you know, everything was like that. It was like, oh my God, it was so fabulously entertaining and fantastic. I spent the best month, you know, talking to everything or listening to everything. And then it started fading. And then it went away. Nowadays, I have to go into like an altered state and really tap into it, into like really make an effort to get that same information from a plant.
It's probably like everything else. If you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're not running around South America using herbs and acting as a
Right.
healer or whatever that Mapuche lady was. That lineage was that a healer's lineage?
No, she wasn't a healer, but let me put it this way. So she was given the Machi lineage by another Machi, obviously, and each Machi that collects the lineage decides what they're going to be. So it's not a healing lineage or a war lineage, or a dark lineage, a light lineage. They're not defined like that, and they're not defined by the previous one either. The actual Machi decides what they're going to do with it, right? So it's person dependent, you know. So when you get a lineage, you can get all sorts of different parts of that lineage. You get the healing part, you get the war part, you get the exploration part, the learning part, the teaching part. You can get anything, all of it, and then you decide which ones interest you more and you pursue it.
So did you or did you not?
No, I was only 7 and I had other things happening. And it's like I tried to get that Machi to see me again and she wouldn't. And in that lineage, I could tell and I could been told, you know, get trained by the Machi. So that would have been ideal and then I wouldn't have lost it. But she was too afraid. She didn't want to. I did get a second lineage, Machi lineage, from the south of Chile when I was in my 30s. And that one was with the agreement of that Machi. And she actually, you know, she just shared it with me. Like we were just standing together and she realized I was a Machi. She said, "Oh, you're one of us." She laughed. And she immediately sent me her Machi, right? Lineage. And again, it was like almost like thousands of people coming and touching me, you know? And so I thought, okay, here's mine. So I gave it to her and she was like, whoa, so like amazed, right? And it's like, oh, you can use it. Oh, yeah. And then she got mine. It's
Nice.
like, I didn't even know that I was adding to it. But, you know, she knew things that I knew, like personal things of skills that I had learned in daily life, you know, because it's an active thing, right?
An active lineage. It's an active and alive culture.
Yeah. Like,
where the lineages are, I guess,
they grow.
Kept
yeah.
instead of dropped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like in our tribes, most of ours, the lineages are in a lot of times dropped, cut by drugs and alcohol and abuse, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So it kind of like cuts it. Can it be reconnected?
Yeah, but the person would have to go through their healing and everything, you know, and start from scratch. It's a lot harder to restart it, I think, you know.
In the case of like that Mapuche lineage, if you don't pass it on, does it stop with you?
Yes. But of course, that first one would have passed it on to several other people, I'm thinking.
Maybe.
And the one from the south also, right? They always choose more than one apprentice and they pass it on to them. But the one I carry myself with all the things that I've added, plus the 2 lineage combined. Well, the 2 combined lineages, that lady from the south also has that because I shared mine with her, or what I had of it, right? It was nearly complete. I'd say about 80% there, you know. But yeah. All right, let's go to the next bit, yeah?
Okay.
Dun, 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 dun. Where were we?
The beginning, a lineage to you is a bundle of wisdom and practical applications of that wisdom that a person inherits or creates to be inherited in the future.
Oh, yeah. So this, yeah. So yeah, through the agreement for the lineage and the recipient. Let's call these a wisdom's
Field of Wisdom.
Field of Wisdom Lineages, yeah. Now, there very well could be many more types of lineages, but the above are the ones I have personal experience with. For example, I'm pretty sure there are lineages a person can carry at a soul level from lifetime to lifetime. I've seen evidence of these lineages in children who can do extraordinary things as toddlers. For example, paint like an adult or play music like a maestro at like toddlers.
Yeah, I have seen that too.
And when I've seen those people,
Opera singing, toddlers, and things like that.
When I've seen those people, it's definitely a reincarnation thing.
Yeah, I feel like a past life.
Yeah.
That hasn't been forgotten.
Yeah, or maybe they spend so many lifetimes fine-tuning that skill, right?
Right.
I know that, for example, there was this guy he was my mom's boyfriend in the 90s, and he was learning how to play the guitar, the classical Spanish guitar. He's an English guy. And he was so useless at it. I mean, he just could not get it. He tried really hard, and he would practice for hours a day, but he just could not get it. But he insisted and he insisted and he insisted. And when I was like looking at him, I remember thinking at the time, oh, this is his very, very first time touching a guitar. And I'm pretty sure he's going to spend his entire life, the rest of his life, learning it.
Yeah.
And then next lifetime, he's going to continue.
Get better.
Yeah, and he'll be better. And then after that, until he masters it completely, right? And I've seen, it's like, there's a couple of maestros from Chile that I've had the privilege of being in the same house with them, and they were playing together, classical musicians. And it's just out of this world. It's like they are completely bringing in the divine energy through them. And it's like you can tell that those muscles, that skill, they brought in already. Even though, I mean, they were both young men by the time they became maestros. They weren't like toddlers. But when they were toddlers, they were certainly had that capacity, affinity and capacity to do it. And they did spend years studying it. Right? And they were always learning from each other, like with different maestros. And funnily enough, in that place and that party, I think it was the very first time that they had played together, and you wouldn't have known it.
No.
It was amazing. And they were so happy with each other, and they were talking, oh, and then you did this, and then you did that. Yeah. And I noticed that you did blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's right. And it's like two maestros, they called each other maestro. It was amazing.
Reminds me a little bit of the 10,000 hour thingy guy. He said that was funny that's the thing that people always like remember about what he said, but he said that it's not just that. Yeah. You actually have to have some skill also. A little bit of skill, or a little bit of what do you call it? A talent, or
a talent. Yeah, you have to have some sort of talent.
And I think what he's referring to is this lineage. It's some form of this lineage. Maybe, right?
Yeah, I think that those come in through reincarnation, I'm pretty sure.
Well, that's kind of what a lineage is, isn't it?
No.
Incarnation to incarnation of this wisdoms.
No, because it can be through genetic. I'm going to go forward and explain the other ones, right?
Okay.
So, these lineages themselves contain thousands of years of wisdom keeping and the application of those wisdoms. They're not static, they evolve with each generation of wisdom keepers. In this way, all these lineages are also wisdom seeker lineages. I have found that individuals can carry a genetic lineage, for example, or receive a field energy lineage, but if they don't tap into it or use it, this lineage becomes, the cat. Oh no, we still recording?
Let me look. No, it's still going.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh, Brad.
Everything's moved. All right. I think we're good.
Okay.
Where were we?
Cat lineages on our lap.
Okay. I don't know where we went. So the lineages themselves contain thousands of years of wisdom keeping and the application of those wisdoms. They're not static. They evolve with each generation of wisdom keepers. In this way, all these lineages are also wisdom seeker lineages. I have found that individuals can carry a genetic lineage, for example, or receive a field of energy lineage, and if they don't tap into it or use it, this lineage becomes dormant inside of them, atrophy, or dissipates. This is because lineages are both sentient and alive. If the person doesn't feed them or use them, they cease to exist. I will give you a summary of how I received these 3 lineages. Did you have anything to add there?
No, just soaking it in.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we talked a little bit about the genetic one. We talked about the one that was passed down. That's not genetic, right? And this genetic one is the Alchemist lineage for me personally. The Alchemist lineage. This lineage is a hereditary one from my father's family. It was passed to me directly from my grandfather, bypassing my father and his sister. This is a combination of Field of Wisdom Lineage. Of genetic and Field of Wisdom Lineage. It cannot be passed to people outside of the family gene pool. I tried. This lineage has the capacity to speak to me directly. It would have been better if my grandfather had lived long enough to train me, but without his training, I found that my exploration of the lineage is free of dogma, and I'm able to study the data and wisdoms in a more expansive and direct way. It is a very powerful and active lineage and insistent on my daily practices, applications, and study. Some of the areas that this lineage covers are art, music, power objects, and artifacts, and what we might also call magic.
Interesting.
Okay, the second one is the magical lineage. This is also a hereditary lineage, but it's passed down from teacher to student in a schooling sense. The child or the adult apprentice needs to have the capacity to receive it, but they are not restricted to family or genes. It is also very linked to training at a physical level, and it is not passed down at an energetic or telepathic level. I received this one from my mother's side of the family. She herself passed down a lot of skills and information to me, and one of her sisters did also. Think gypsies.
Or maybe like Kung Fu and Masters of Qigongs and things like that. They seem to like pass.
Yeah,
they take you on as a student,
right?
As a master, and there's a
if you have the capacity
and the I don't know. There's probably a little bit. It's not like just anybody, but
right.
You need to be a proper candidate, and then you need to be accepted. There's some like mystery schools and things like that too, probably.
Yeah.
So that's more along that type.
Yeah.
Or you will have an affinity, maybe an identifiable affinity, and a desire to engage or enter into, like maybe the Zen monasteries and things like that too.
My third lineage is a shamanic lineage. I'm calling it this one shamanic lineage for lack of a better word. The one I carry is a lineage of the Machi. It is indigenous to the Americas, Mapuche tribes, and passed directly from adult to child or apprentice in a big bundle of data. The data is formed of not just the information that all previous Machis carried, but also their personalities and life stories. In an ideal situation, once the child or apprentice receives the lineage, they will study under the Machi who passed it to them for many decades. I received 2 Machi lineages, but was not lucky enough to study under them. Decoding and exploring the data in the lineage is very telepathic in nature, but harder than if I had been instructed by one of the Machis who passed me their lineage. Due to the lack of instruction, a huge percentage of the lineage data is not available to me. I could make it available with tons of hours of study and dedicated decoding. And before we continue exploring, I have to say I'm looking forward to hearing what our Wisdom Keeper panelists will be sharing about their own lineages this week. Just join us on the Wisdom Keeper Hour at drivingtotherest.com so that you can talk about it too on our Friday after parties, Friday 9 a.m. Pacific. Anyways, what do you have to say about that one?
Well, our Wisdom Keeper podcast is the rest of this podcast. And that's the $8 a month thing, and you go get it at drivingtotherest.com.
Yes.
And you can listen to the rest of the conversation with our panel of mystics.
Yeah.
And professionals who carry their own lineages, I have no doubt.
Yes, yes.
It will be interesting to hear what lineages they identify.
So, before we finish, I want to talk about Larry's lineages. Can you give us a summary of your lineages, Hen?
Well, there is clearly a fishing lineage of some form.
Would you say that's familial or?
And it feels more of
genetic?
You're a water person lineage, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And fishing is one of the expressions of it, but it could be surfing, it could be sailing, it could be ships, it could be canoes, it could be canals, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a water lineage, and it feels like it's like an origin of being lineage. It's like you're made for this, would be the way that you would describe it. The way I can express it when I went fishing, my first time or second time, or I don't know, one of the first times. I was on the way out and it was dark and it was wavy and rough and there's horrible smells, rotten squids and diesel oil and exhaust, and hadn't had any food for a very long time, but had coffee, you know? So you're like, this is the perfect recipe to get seasick.
Oh, no.
And apparently, everyone who goes out on boats, almost like 99.9% of them get seasick the first time or the first few days of the season or the first trip of the month, or, you know, they'll get seasick and then they'll stop getting seasick unless it gets really rough. And it gets really rough and bouncy and stuff, and then they'll like get seasick again.
Oh, boy.
But for the most part,
yeah, I've heard
once
that.
they get it over with, they're done with it unless it's really rough, and then they might get it again.
Yeah.
So I was heading out, and it's the first time I'd ever been commercial fishing.
Yeah.
And I was starting to get seasick, and then I was like, wait a minute. I'm made for this. There's zero chance I'm getting seasick. And it just snapped into that lineage. It felt like I snapped into it.
Wow, that's really cool.
And I have been to sea in all kinds of conditions like you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
With hundreds and thousands of people seasick, puking all over the place. And I have never once gone seasick.
Nice.
So that would be what I would call like my water lineage. And it also, you know, it comes out in the creeks. You remember in a big river behind the Shaman Shack?
Yes.
All of the water, I think they would be like not so much runes, but maybe runish. They were what would you describe those channels? Like,
water sprite?
does it be a rune, or what would be the word for a symbol that's not a rune? Because a rune is a specific thingy. This is more like a symbol that can represent it's an alchemical symbol of some kind.
Symbols, yeah. There's symbols in all sorts of different schools.
I did alchemy in the river, basically. River alchemy. I would call it river alchemy.
Okay.
And I was just like a natural thing, just like doing that. And they were pretty powerful little symbols because they triggered the guy who won't come out of his house to run over there and say, "Get out of my river." Like, what are you throwing to my river?
Yes.
Like, oh, other than, you know, sending dogs to his front porch, he never comes out of his house, but he makes some alchemical symbols in his river. He's come chase you out of his river.
Yes, yes.
So that was one of the indications of some of that. Yeah, and then there is a healer's lineage that comes through my mother.
Definitely.
And I don't exactly like, I want to go, well, when I was in high school, the only job that sounded reasonable was doctor. But I thought at the time doctor was a healer. I didn't know that wasn't actually the case. Till I went to the hospital for a like tryout, check it out, see if it's actually something you would like. And then the book they gave me to study up was, this book is about that thick.
Fat drugs.
And on the top cover of it said Merck drug manual, something like that.
Oh my God.
And all that was in there was a bunch of pills and the side effects and the counter effect. And
Yeah.
it was like a giant book of pills. I'm like,
Yeah.
doctors? This is doctor stuff?
Yeah.
Like learn which pills do what.
And then what pills to give to stop the side effects of the first one, the second one.
Yeah.
And
So I became disillusioned with that quite
Mhm.
rapidly.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
And so I did actually go get some healers training with Dr. Cowan's new biology clinic.
Mm-hmm.
We spent a few $1,000s going to training for that to become certified as a new biology practitioner.
Yeah.
And those were healing in the sense of supporting the body through the processes it's naturally
Going through.
Right? Mm-hmm. And when you're listening to, as a wisdom seeker, true information, it just effortlessly flows. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when it's like, here's the Merck manual, you go like, your lineage says, you can drop that.
Yeah.
It's funny too, though, because my mom was like a adherent to that, even though the medicines she made were natural.
Yes.
Salves with, like.
Yeah, those like, well, I know what that is. It's a symptom of the injured healer that.
Injured healer with no one to heal, so you make yourself sick. Mm-hmm. So you have
because they don't have permission, right? So they don't have the certificate or the doctorate. So they feel, or they're being told they are not allowed to heal.
Oh, because they're not authorized.
They're not authorized. Don't have it. Yeah, certified or authorized to do it. So they just turn it against them. Often these individuals will also surround themselves with very ill people, sick people, and animals, and addicts, and all sorts of people that are needing them to provide some sort of healing support.
So if they were actively using their lineage, then that
wouldn't happen. No, it wouldn't happen at all.
Well, what would they be doing with their healing lineage if they don't? There wouldn't be sick people around to heal.
No, because they can't heal them. You see, it's chronics that they surround themselves like addicts, or themselves they get some really nasty chronic conditions that they cannot heal. There's a difference. When you get somebody who's sick and needs support in their healing story, that's very different because they come to you with a healing story.
With this, they come with it's
a very different thing.
A process whereby they actually do heal instead of a process whereby they continuously never heal.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, well, that's more clear.
Yeah.
Like our experience with our lawyer.
Yes. That was a pretty cool experience, Annie. Well done.
Story. Why don't you tell it?
It's a summary. I think we should do it in the second. We'll give the
summary of this healing story.
I think we should do it in the second hour.
Second hour?
Which is the wisdom keepers.
The wisdom keepers. So if you're a wisdom keeper and you have an interest in the healing lineages, the Mapuche, which those lineages have to do with basically anything you say?
Yeah, the person then decides what they're going to concentrate on.
It's funny that you didn't utilize that one because you do a lot of stuff.
What do you mean I don't utilize that one?
You said that you lost that one because you don't utilize it.
Well, I said I lost the majority of it. I didn't say I lost all of it.
You lost it because you don't utilize it.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that you wouldn't utilize it.
Well, there's a lot of it.
It seems like it'd be pretty useful. if you can have plants tell you what they're good for, and I imagine cars could tell you what's broken in them, and horses can tell you what's wrong with their legs or what kind of thing they need in their food, diet, things like that. Well, maybe one now we should turn back on again, or turn.
Or maybe I'll ask the lineage if he would be happy to jump into you.
Okay, well,
and see what happens.
That could be a possibility.
Yeah, and it's unmistakable. When it does, it's not like, did anything happen?
Did something happen?
No, it's not like that at all. You go boom, 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 boom.
Okay, yeah, we can talk about that for sure. That sounds good. Look at the snow, honey. Holy moly.
Oh, it's snowing here. How many feet already, honey?
We're at 2 feet of snow in 1.5 days. Basically, 1 day. We went to sleep last night. We had about
Have you ever
an inch.
Have you ever had the feet of snow here before?
Not here, but I had in Alaska before.
No, this is not Alaska. This is like the Olympic Peninsula.
Yeah.
By the coast.
This is extraordinary.
It is. I've been here, was it 10 years now?
Yes.
And I've never seen so much snow. It's like, good. I remember when we got a couple of inches and we were so happy we made a snowman and it was like, wow, so much snow. I was walking outside, the snow came up to my knees, into my boots. Yes. You know, it's like, what the?
I know we had 2 inches or so a couple days ago, and I took our polar bear for his first walk in the snow. And it was quite funny because, you know, he loved it, and, you know, we went for a run, and I think a mile walk back and forth, and he was being all puppy in the snow. And then this morning I woke up and we have 2 feet of snow, and it was a whole different ball game.
Oh no, what happened to him?
He loved it so much, but he grows snowballs on his hair.
Oh no, like Romeo.
Like Romeo.
Oh, no.
Not on the front, just on his back.
Oh my god.
So I got a video of him waddling around with giant snowballs. It's really funny.
And now we're going to try and clean our driveway, which is about a mile long, isn't it?
I don't know how this is going to work out, but we're going to give it a go.
We're going to film it.
Yeah, we'll give it a film. We'll need to tap into some of these magical lineages and some of these alchemical lineages, and definitely some of these Mapuche lineages, because they must live in the mountains where the snow is. They have. And our water lineage. I have a little water lineage. We'll have to tap into these and get this dealt with.
Yes, yes.
And in the meantime, right, join us in the second part, the Wisdom Keepers podcast.
Yes, there's so much more to share.
Right.
It'd be awesome.
See you there.
See you then.
Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Keeper Hour, the second half of Driving to the Res. Today we're talking about Wisdom Lineages, Part 1. What are they? Hi, Larry and Inelia.
Hi.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi to our panelists.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Ashley Swale. I'm CEO of iBenz Academy, iBenz Method Mentor, Corporate HR Leader, Mystic, and Yoga Teacher.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Kara Kinzigli. I'm an iBenz Method Mentor, Teacher, Gamer, Mystic, and Entrepreneur.
I'm Fred Guerin, Aerospace Engineer, for now. And pilot, dancer, student of the occult, and past life regression therapist.
Hey, Fred, I seen a Cessna for 10 grand on Facebook Marketplace. It says it's mostly flies. Should we go get it?
It mostly flies.
No.
The rope's
okay.
holding it down, or a little bit afraid.
You'll mostly take off.
It will mostly fly.
There's some background here. Fred and Larry co-own a tractor.
It mostly drives.
And I think 2 sailboats. I'm not sure.
They mostly sail. Our sailboat sinks on the beach on the trailer.
Yeah, let's add an airplane to the mix.
Yeah, an airplane that most might or may not fly.
May or may not fly. We may have to take the wings off and drive it on a truck to get it home.
I've bought an airplane before. You want to buy the airplane that's in the best shape possible to save money.
That's the same with boats.
You need to spend your money now so you don't spend it later.
Same with boats.
Well, the most expensive boat is a free one.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, guys, you left us on a cliffhanger on the first hour. You were going to tell us about a healing lineage story with your lawyer. So what happened?
Join us for the rest of this conversation at driveintotheres.com.
And when you go to driveintotheres.com and you join in the rest of the show, rest of the second hour, you also get to join in the after party. 9 o'clock on Fridays, we all get together, including you,